What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Unhinged, presented by the Concord Outlaws/Outlaws Sports Network. I have to get used to saying Outlaws Sports Network. I don't know. Ever since we changed the name, I'm still saying Concord Outlaws. I got to get that through to my head. Today, I'm joined by two guests this week. I've got the one and only Jacob Rock over there, and representing from Bristol, Tennessee.
You know it.
And we got fellow Concordian James Bealtey.
What's up, y'all? How's it going?
Absolutely, guys. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you for y'all tuning in on YouTube via the Google Hangout live stream. Got an interesting show for you guys this week. Got a couple things we're going to be discussing. Obviously, got some college football picks, got some NFL picks. I'm going to go ahead and give Jacob all the pride he wants to for me picking the 49ers to beat the Panthers a couple weeks ago. But, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. That was for him picking the Eagles against the Redskins, and the Eagles beat the Redskins 2 weeks ago. So I guess it's a double whammy for me. But anyways, we got some NFL picks, got some college football picks, got some interesting discussions regarding college football coaches that are on the hot seat. Even though it's week 2, some college football coaches that are definitely on the hot seat. The team's not starting out so good, that could make their way exit either through the end of this year or maybe in the middle of the season, like some teams do. So we can start out first with getting to the hot seats for college football and give you takeaways over the past couple of weeks here. We'll start out with week 2. Some of the big games that happened. You had my boys, the Clemson Tigers, defeating Louisville on the road, handedly whooping that tail up at Papa John's, further classifying us as the legitimate threat for this year. So I'll leave it at that. Some other big games happened too as well. But what are some of your guys' biggest takeaways from week 2 of the college football scene?
What a Hail Mary from Florida. Florida has not impressed me, I will say that. Neither has Tennessee. Kentucky's defense is really seriously good. What else can we take away? I mean, other than the SEC, because I really kept up with the SEC last week and we're going into that Kentucky game. But like I said, that Florida-Georgia game was crazy. I don't know how they won like that, but hey, it is what it is. That's why you play.
Absolutely. James, what about you?
I'll keep it in the SEC. I was really impressed with, one, how good Kentucky played against my South Carolina Gamecocks. They stepped into probably one of the most
You're frozen.
Probably what he's going to say is we stepped into a hostile environment. Okay, there he goes.
And they showed that they could play on the road. And then also Vanderbilt, they might be a dark horse team in the SEC. They only put up.
Lost him again.
See, this is what happens when you bring Gamecock fans on your show. Well, while we're having some technical difficulties over there from Mr. Beatley, I guess I'll kind of pick up where you left off with the fact that Vanderbilt put up only 14 points against Kansas State, but did defeat them. Kansas State was ranked 18th last week, and even though Vanderbilt doesn't have much of an offense when facing those big teams, the fact they held a Big 12 team, Kansas State, as we all know, the Big 12 is known for its offense and not much for the defense, they held only 7 points. So maybe that defense is pretty legit over there in Vanderbilt. Never know. They did defeat them. They're 3-0 in the season. You can look at that how you want to, but defeating a pretty good sound team from a Big 12 like that and only giving up 7 points at home, it's a pretty big deal for Vanderbilt fans and stuff like that. I'll finish up here while either he gets unfrozen over there or decides to come back into the chat. USC with a hard-fought victory over Texas. That was a good game. I watched that after the Clemson game went off. I watched some of the Texas USC game. That game went to overtime, 2 overtimes, as a matter of fact. That was a really good game. I really thought Texas might have pulled it out there, but USC just kept coming back, and got the job done in overtime. And for me, one of the bigger upsets as well, besides Kansas State losing to Vanderbilt, was San Diego State beating Stanford last week. Stanford was ranked number 19 in the country, went on the road in San Diego and lost. So I think now we have a really clear picture of who's going to be fighting for that Pac-12 title. USC definitely is going to be in that mix. Washington will probably still be in that mix. They soundly defeated Fresno State. Those might be the only two teams that you can really look at right now and say that they're the mainstays of the Pac-12. And even though USC is ranked number 4, I just don't know if they're the number 4 team in the country right now. That's me. Giving up, not doing very much on offense until the fourth quarter against Texas at home. And again, you got to give Texas credit too, even though they were overhyped and lost to Maryland in the opening week. They played USC really, really hard. So I think still Washington is a favorite in that Pac-12, but USC is proving that at least their defense is really sound. So the offense is just going to come around for sure.
We forgot to also say LSU went into Stark Vegas and got blown out by 30 by Mississippi State. I think that was probably one of the other biggest upsets this last week in college football. I forgot to mention that because I was actually scrolling down through here who all played, and I was like, oh, yeah, they did play. And, I was sitting watching the Kentucky game, and all of a sudden I see the bottom score just keep on rising and rising. And I'm like, really, Mississippi State's really this good? But, hey, they got a good quarterback. Our dark horse, especially now in the SEC West. Vanderbilt's got Alabama in Nashville, which I think that will be a great game tomorrow at 3:30.
That's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a really, really good game. I think, the SEC has quite a few good games this week coming up. I mean, you've got the Florida-Kentucky game. You've got who else? You got, like I said, Alabama, Vanderbilt. There's a couple Baylor or Mississippi State, Georgia.
Yeah, a couple other really good games that we'll get to as far as picking stuff like that. So definitely there is some, even though it's not going to be a major week like maybe the last couple weeks were, there's still some pretty important games to kind of note and at least pay attention to around the country for sure.
Oh, yeah.
While we still get James up and running here, may take a couple seconds. We'll get a hold of him here in a minute, see if he'll be able to come back into this chat here. We'll start out with the college football coaches that after week 2 haven't performed very well. The team hasn't performed very well, and they're possibly on the hot seat. Who do you feel like, your top 2 maybe, of who you think is currently the most on the hot seat after week 2?
Well, number 1, I will say. Well, actually, let me save number 1 because number 1 is something that I want to actually a little bit go in detail with. I think for me, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. I mean, he's got to be number 2 on that hot seat right now. I think, with Notre Dame, prestigious program, and, Colin Cowherd had his thoughts yesterday, and I thought was really good. But I'll go to my number 1 because I want to kind of get into it a little bit. So I watched Clay Travis. I love Clay Travis. If you don't know who Clay Travis is, I would highly recommend you guys to watch his live streams every day at 3 o'clock. Huge Tennessee fan. Butch Jones is the number 1 guy on the hot seat. And like Butch Jones said, it's time to – or like Butch Jones said, like Clay Travis said, it's time to get them out. Time to get Butch Jones out. Meaning, the Tennessee fans around here, yes, like everybody knows, I live in Tennessee. These Tennessee fans are not happy with Butch Jones. They are champions of life. You don't get a trophy for that. So I think for me, Tennessee being a prestigious football program, I kind of like do it with Kentucky basketball, New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, any type of, big franchise like that. You got Tennessee who is dominant, that was dominant in the early 2000s, and it's kind of declined after they got rid of Philip Former. That's when they started declining. Of course, the Derek Dooley era, which Tennessee fans do not want to remember at all. And then now you got Butch Jones here who gets recruits, and it just seems like he cannot get a quarterback. The best last quarterback he had was Josh Dobbs, and I didn't think Dobbs was all that good of a quarterback. But, I mean, he proved me wrong last year. But We'll see. I mean, but I think that's my top two, especially Butch Jones. I think it's time for Tennessee, like Clay Travis says, put the money truck. It's time to dump that money truck on somebody else. And there's a lot of coaches out there, I think, that could leave their job. Mike Leach is one of them, I think, that could replace at Tennessee. Man, there's just so many coaches that just pop off my head that probably could leave. And, I mean, I don't know, but Tennessee is for sure the number one, Butch Jones, I have to say.
Sure. James, as we kind of left you there in the background of whatever's going on with your internet over there, discussion as of right now is the top 2 college football coaches that you believe after week 2 is on the hot seat that more than likely could be fired either midway through the season or at the end of the season. Who do you think takes a spot or your top 2 spots?
My top 2, sorry, is number two. Number 2, I would agree with Jacob, would be Butch Jones. With Tennessee, every year for the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years, Tennessee has been favored to win the East. Every single year at SEC Media Days, they've had the hype. They've been in the top 25 preseason rankings. They've gotten a really good recruiting class every single year, but yet it seems like they can only get an 8 or 9 win season at the most every year. And I mean, an 8-win season for some teams is really good, but for a team with the hype on paper that, I mean, they should be winning the East almost every year. They should be contending with Alabama in the SEC championship game every year. And they just haven't been, I don't know, of another program that has had so much hype over the past 5 years and hasn't delivered any single year. So I'm saying, like, I don't think he's going to get fired halfway through the year. I mean, because, I mean, the schedule looks pretty good, but if they don't get the SEC East at the end of this year, if they don't win that division, then you have to consider moving on from Butch Jones and going somewhere else. And then my number 1 is Matt Rule and Baylor. Granted, yes, it's his first year, and I mean Matt Rule had a pretty successful time at Temple, and I feel like he went to a program, and it's not all his fault because of all the sexual assault stuff and everything from the previous coach and all that stuff. That, I mean, a lot of people don't want to go to that program anymore. And a lot of people transferred out after everything came out. So it's really not his fault. But if you look at their schedule, so they lost to Liberty, then they lost to Texas, Texas El Paso, I think it was. Then last week they lost to a subpar Duke team. And the next 3 weeks this week they play Oklahoma. So they're going to go 0-4. They play a pretty good, I think it's Texas the next week. So that could be 0-5. And then they play Oklahoma State the next week. So they could start this season 0-6 with a chance of maybe even 7 straight weeks of losing and not even making a bowl game. Like, no, I feel like Baylor didn't expect this because Matt Rule's a good coach. He led Temple to they won the American Athletic Conference, their division last year. It's just, I don't know if Baylor's the right fit for him. Granted that he's not going to get the recruits in Texas at teams like Texas A&M or Texas Tech or Texas are going to get now with all the scandals surrounding Baylor. So those would be my top 2.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. I'm going to try to switch it up just a little bit so that way we're not all agreeing on the same 2 people. Even though if I had a number 3, it'd definitely be Butch Jones. I think Butch Jones is definitely on that hot seat for sure. Something that not a good situation over there in Tennessee. Week in, week out, year in, year out, you get favored, you get highly ranked, and still fall short of expectations. But definitely Butch Jones is on the hot seat. I just don't want to put him at number 2 and number 1. Trying to switch it up a little bit. For number 2 for me, it's going to be Kevin Sumlin over there at Texas A&M. You know, he's done a great job over the past, 6, 7, 8 seasons almost. And I think because he had Manziel for those first 2 or 3 seasons that he looked a lot better than what he did because he had such a great quarterback and a dynamic quarterback over there at Texas A&M. But almost
as well as Mike Evans, which is
exactly.
a really good wide receiver.
Yeah, the wide receivers and the running backs have been really good over there at Texas A&M. They had Myles Garrett right? That went
Yep.
number 1 overall this past year.
Had a
draft,
good
so.
defense. They've been having good defenses for
Yeah.
the past 3-4 years.
But for some reason, it just hasn't come together. And I know that they switched from the Big 12 to the SEC. You're going from a highly offensive conference to a much more defensive sound conference, big boy football. And I just don't think Texas A&M has turned that step yet. Either one year they'll have a good defense or have a good offense, but they won't have it all completely packaged. I think it's time, and Texas A&M is starting to get a little fishy because they've been subpar. They haven't really exceeded expectations like most people had them in. They've won a few bowl games here and there, but if you're in the SEC, you're not winning. You're not playing to go to a bowl game. You're playing to get nationally recognized, get in the national championship scene, get into the SEC championship scene. So I think Kevin Sumlin, if they don't turn things around there pretty quickly, he could be on the hot seat. I think Texas A&M is 2-1. They lost to UCLA by giving up a 30-point lead. That's not a good way to start your season out. So I think that they are definitely on the hot seat. For number 1 for me, though, I'm going to switch it up from Brian Kelly or Baylor's coach, anything like that. I'm going to go with Mark Riley over at Nebraska. They have been awful this season. They have lost to teams like Northern Illinois, which some people really, really hated the fact that they lost to Northern Illinois. I remember them being in the Orange Bowl a few years ago, so, I mean, you can't just write them off as a program. But, yes, they should have beaten Northern Illinois. They lost to Oregon by 7 up in Eugene, and their only win of the season came against Arkansas State. But they gave up 36 points and only won by 7, I believe, against Arkansas State. So off to a 1-2 start. You lost to once at home against a Northern Illinois team. So I think that Mark Riley over there in Nebraska, they have some really high hopes this season, competing over there in the Big Ten. They're in the Big Ten, and they've fallen short pretty quickly here too. So Mark Riley, I believe, is on the hot seat, and I would put him as my number 1. That if they don't win out maybe the rest of their games for this year and get back to a conference championship game, again to a New Year's Six bowl, that he could possibly be out at the end of the season for sure.
Well, your number 1 is definitely going to go out because what I just read is they are going to make coach change. Well, they just fired their AD too. So
right, yeah.
They fired him yesterday. But we was talking about Tennessee real quick. I was looking at their schedule. So this week they play who they play? They play UMass. But here's Tennessee's rest of the schedule this year. You got Georgia, you got South Carolina, you got to go to Alabama. You got to go to Kentucky. You got to play Southern Miss, which a Southern Miss team that we played at the first of the year, that is a good team. Do not underestimate Southern Miss. Then they got to go to Mizzou, got to play LSU, and then they play Vanderbilt. This is not an easy schedule for Tennessee. In my opinion, if you get down to this, let's see, you're going to beat UMass. Or something happens, they might not beat UMass. But you get down to this Georgia game, South Carolina game, then you go to Alabama. They go 0-3 in that. Butch Jones is gone. Even if you get to this Kentucky game and they lose to Kentucky because, like I said, Kentucky has a real good chance of beating Tennessee this year, I think you're definitely gone. I mean, you cannot go, especially in the Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, in those stretch of 3 games. You can't lose those games. You have to at least win one, and I don't see them beating South Carolina.
I mean, based on what they did in Florida, giving up that. I mean, I understand it was a last-second Hail Mary, but they shouldn't have even given up.
How did he get behind him?
Yeah, there's no reason that it was a 3-man rush, like you're supposed to, because you're playing deep. You're playing like 11 DBs deep or something like that. Not 11, but like 8 DBs back. How does somebody get behind you like that and does that? So, if anything from Florida shows us that Tennessee can still surprise us with losing games that they probably should win. So, yeah, I definitely would agree with you on Butch Jones there. Anybody have anything to bring to the table? I thought I don't know if you had something you wanted to elaborate, Jake, before we get to picks.
Yeah. So I was sitting, this has been on my mind for the past, I want to say 3 years. So I think college football needs to change the rule of if you're down on the ground, like say you catch the ball like in NFL, your knees on the ground, nobody's around you to touch you, I think you should be allowed to get up. To me personally, I think that should be a rule change. I just wanted y'all's thoughts and opinions on that. Do you think the rule should be changed like the NFL when they go down and catch it? Because I personally don't like that. I think these kids want to get up and they want to run. And I think that's how it should be, because when you do get these rookies, especially wide receivers in the league, I mean, they know to get up and run, but some of them forget because you're still in that college mentality, especially as a rookie. When you go down to a ground, you're just going to sit there. Now, I think that's what I was going to say. Should they change it or should they leave it alone where it's at right now? That's my thing with you guys. What do you all think about that?
James, you can start it.
Yeah, I would say, a change should be necessary. I mean, you take a look at last night's football game, fourth quarter, Carlos Hyde slips. He falls to the ground. No one touches him, and he goes from losing 4 yards to basically setting up the almost tying touchdown. So, I mean, it's difficult. Sometimes someone slips. I mean, and to me, I feel like college should elevate players to be able to be ready for the professionals, because there's going to be 300 or so players in the college football game every year going to the NFL. So, I mean, you should be able to be ready to have – every player should be able to know what to expect when going to the NFL. And I think, I mean, it should start in college. And I think another thing that could change as well, maybe over time, not like right away, would be the 1 foot versus 2 foot inbounds rule on catches. I mean, because you're going to have these wide receivers who they're used to the 1 foot in touchdown rule. So, I mean, to me, to elevate the game, you should have it the same in both college and professional sports.
Good point. I agree with you on the toe drag, too. Pierre Garçon last night made a hell of a catch last night, dragging the 2 feet. But I do agree with you on that one. So what do you think about, Kody? What do you think about that?
You know, I was going to say, and James kind of brought it up there, is that there's a couple of things that you look at that you say maybe should change and things that shouldn't change. I think there's a reason why college football is amateur, so to speak, and obviously when you're in the NFL, it's professional. The whole, if you slip and fall or if you lay down, you're technically down in college. I think there's just so many things in college that just separate it from being kind of an amateur type sport, and then when you get to the NFL, you are brought to a much different type of game. For instance, obviously with the 1 foot inbounds versus 2 feet inbounds, that's definitely a thing that I think should be 2 feet inbound in college. And then also like penalties, you know, in the NFL, if you get a pass interference penalty in the end zone, the ball's placed at the 1 yard line in the NFL. In college, it's placed at the 2. Yep. Pass interferences are the same thing. Pass interference in the NFL is usually either a spot foul or 15 yards if it's, I think, within the parameter of like 15 yards or 10 yards. And in college, no matter what, it's 15 yards. So, I mean, there's different rules, different style of the way it's played. I think that's just because of the fact of they have to make it a little bit different, so that way it's not like they're watching an NFL game, if that makes any sense. And I don't know why that would kind of make it any difference. But I just think that as far as the whole the knee down and stuff like that, I think they should leave it in college, only because there's a difference between NFL and college, and that once you get drafted, you're in a much bigger physical sport league, that you have the whole summer to get that mindset of okay, I'm in the NFL now. If I slip, I can get back up if I'm not touched. If if I'm making a catch like that, make sure I can get 2 feet in bounds, stuff like that. So you have a whole summer, and then if you're a rookie, depending on where you get drafted, you may not even play the first year or very little. So even then, you still have a whole year or so to kind of get your grasp and your parameters of knowing what to do, what not to do. So I think it's fine. I think that some things that probably should change in college, the 2 feet rule, that I do agree with. But besides that, I just think it's just the nature of the game.
That's true. I mean, that is very true. I just think, honestly, like sometimes I'll see it and I'm like, they'll go down to a knee and there's nobody around. And I mean, I seen it, last week with Kentucky. I mean, there was a couple times, a South Carolina defender would go down, catch the ball, and, they'd be right there touching them anyways. And that's good. You want to teach your kids that anyways for the next level, So I think personally, I would love to see it change. It's kind of like, with college basketball. There's a lot of stuff I would love to see change with college basketball, but with football, I think that's one thing. And even with the 2 feet, I think, you got to have 2 feet down in the pros. Why should you have 1 foot down in college? Because if you've looked over the years, you still got rookies. I mean, now, like I said, you got all summer long, you got OTAs, you got everything that you should learn the rules and on how, you got to get 2 feet in, but still they want to go over to the sideline, still do the 1 catch thing because they think that's still the rule. But yeah, I think that's the 2 feet should be implemented into the college game as well. I strongly believe in that. I really do.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody else has anything to kind of bring up before, we can just go ahead and kind of get the picks in here if nobody else has got anything to bring.
Not really. I mean, there's not really anything to talk about other than what we got wrestling this weekend. No mercy.
Yeah, we go from sports to wrestling. Come on, guys.
I mean, that's what I said. I mean, we really ain't got nothing, left to talk about other than, making picks and stuff like that. But I can't really think of anything to bring to the table other than, like I said, baseball. I haven't even been keeping up with baseball, and that's bad. That's bad on me.
My team's been mathematically eliminated, so there really isn't much to talk about baseball with my team.
Nah, well, there you go. My Red Sox are doing good. I can't say that they're not, but like I said, I keep up with the Red Sox, every day and look at their standings and stuff. But other than baseball, yeah. So, like Cleveland
was the Yankees game that somebody hit a foul ball and hit a kid?
Yeah, that was
that's scary.
Yeah, I think there needs to be safer ways and I've said this for years now. I went to a Cincinnati Reds game. I was about 20, I don't even know, I want to say maybe like 22, 23 years old. And Weeks came up to the bat and went and watched the Reds play the Brewers. Weeks gets up, drills a foul ball, and I'm sitting first baseline, maybe 6 rows up. I put my hand up like this, and yes, I do have like a splint on my finger, but I put my hand up like that. Ball hits my hand, falls in the girl's lap. Just falls there, just sits there. And she's listening to her iPod, not even watching the game. Just lands right in her lap. But I think there should be safer alternatives. I know they try to put nets up now, on certain sides of the field. I think, there should be a kind of a safety thing there, but it's baseball. It's the game of baseball, and that's what happens. And I've said it for years. I think baseball is a dying sport. That's just me, though. It is. It's a dying sport, and I hate to say that because it is our pastime, but it's becoming to die, and it's kind of like watching WCW in the old days. And now, I'm sorry. I know you love the WCW. Don't get me wrong. I love WCW as well, but I was the WWE kid / WWF kid. Well, WWF / WWE kid. Growing up, I loved, the WCW thing, but that's what it kind of reminds me of is baseball is like WCW. Well, I shouldn't even really say WCW. I should say more TNA. If you really want to go down a route, TNA.
A company that'll never die eventually.
Yeah, like that is ridiculous.
I think from a North American perspective, I can agree with you on the baseball thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think over, in the Caribbean and Mexico and stuff like that, it's still good. It's still popular. In Japan, it's still really popular. Yeah. I just think in a North American aspect, I could definitely agree with you on that. It just seems like it's just not as what's exciting, just not as people aren't just into it anymore. And
you see, like overseas, the talent level is so much better in baseball, whereas here, we get a few good players every now and again, every couple of years. But overseas, I think then the Braves just signed a 16-year-old kid.
South Korea?
Yeah, like the Southeast Asian countries, Curacao, Cuba, all of these countries, the talent level, that's really one of the only sports where they can play because, let's just be honest, it's cheap to play baseball.
Yes, it is.
It's probably the cheapest.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Cheapest sport out of any of the big four. Anyone really can play. I think it was Mariano Rivera a couple years ago that said he started out playing with like a cardboard glove. Like, I mean, so you can, I mean, baseball, I think in the world spectrum, like it's still pretty big, but if you want to look at just in North America, I mean, the talent level is not there compared to the rest of the world. So, I mean, it's going to be difficult to.
I mean, it's to the point where you've got, more Canadians in the league now, a lot of Dominican Republic guys. And, you want to talk about internationally with baseball, you look at the Dominican Republic, they start those kids out at 5 years old playing baseball. And, like every year, the Little League World Series is a great proving ground for that. You look at how good some of these teams are, like a Japan every year it comes into the Little League World Series, or, a Dominican Republic team or a Mexico team. These kids are really, really good. And those kids are our future of baseball. And, a lot of people with me, I think, with baseball, I think where it comes to be boring is you play, 162 games a year. I think shorten it a little bit, kind of like the NBA. The NBA play 82 games, needs to be shortened a little bit. Too long of a year, because by the time you're in maybe June, you're still playing basketball in the NBA a little bit. I shouldn't say June, but close to it, But I think right now with baseball has a good, I think with the 162 games, it ends on the right time. They've bumped it back or bumped it up with the playoffs, and I know the World Series and everything. But I think if they could change it to maybe from 162, maybe take 62 games out or something. I don't know. They got to find a way to do something. I know they've done the pitch clock thing, to speed the game up. They're trying to find ways to speed the game up, and that's what's wrong with the game right now. The game's too long, too boring. You don't get these fans that's getting interested. They lose interest. But I've always told people, I've played baseball for years and years and years. Baseball is 95% mental, 5% physical. It's a mental sport. It really is. It's a mental sport. Like we was talking about that one day, still in signs, it's a mental sport. That's all it is. So I don't know. I feel like, maybe changing the schedule down a little bit would help baseball and the viewership again. Especially here in North America, especially, but everywhere else it's popular, and that's a good thing, as long as it keeps it going. I think I love watching over in Japan. The fans are great. I mean, that's where we've seen Daisuke come from, Ichiro. We've seen so many good players come from that league, and still we got players like Manny Ramirez has went over there and played. And I mean, I love watching the Japan League. I love watching it. It's so fun to watch. So fun.
Right, for sure. For sure. Well, before we get into picks, kind of brought up a little bit, so I feel like, let's just go along with it just a little bit, but we'll kind of not get too much into it. Of course, like you said, WWE No Mercy this Sunday live on the WWE Network at 8 o'clock, live from Los Angeles, California. Got Monster Among Men versus Lesnar for the Universal title. Cena versus Reigns. We'll not get too much into No Mercy. I did it on my podcast last night. That's going to get uploaded here hopefully soon. So be kind of like beating a dead horse with that one. But with the whole, I don't know. We'll get to two things. We'll get to WWE bringing back something like WCW names, bringing back these really special events. But first, we'll get into the feelers that WWE sent out through email. Anybody else get that? I did. And I did the survey. I don't think James did, because you steal my stuff off of the network. You don't actually have your own, but that's okay. WWE emailed and sent feelers out for different surveys about all sorts of things, like if they were to put different companies' shows on there, like TNA, ROH, New Japan. They put out, would you like to see a little bit edgier television? Would you like to bring back kind of like an ECW type of thing? I was just like, man, this is kind of interesting. Some of them had something that also had like a loyalty thing, that if you're a loyalty thing, you get like pre-sale tickets, you get like VIP type stuff, you get like merchandise because you're like, if you hit a longevity goal, like you've been a member for a year, you get a free t-shirt or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So along the lines of those, would you like to see WWE bring back the edgier TV 14 content? Do you think it should be split up from, if they're going to keep Raw 3 hours, should it be a 9 to 11? Should it be a 10 to 11 thing, or should it be the whole show? Going along with that, should they bring back ECW or WCW?
Well, if you go back to TV 14, I guess you need to make Raw 2 hours from 9 to 11 like it used to be. Cut down on the 3 hours. If you want to do 3 hours, I've said it before. We've talked about it. If you want to do 3 hours, the first hour from 8 to 9, make it PG. 9 to 11, PG 14. ECW, if ECW was to come back, let Paul Heyman run it. Let him run it again. Technically, we lost James again. Or did he come back? No.
Lost him again.
Yep. I think with the ECW, I think if you're going to bring it back, at least let Paul Heyman run it in some sort of way. Let him kind of do like what Triple H does. Another thing is I like them bringing back the WCW pay-per-views because I've said it. One of my favorite WCW pay-per-views, a yearly pay-per-view, is Halloween Havoc. That was my all-time favorite WCW pay-per-view. I loved Halloween Havoc. I loved the sets that Halloween Havoc they used to have for Halloween Havoc. That was probably one of my favorite events. And even outside, WWE, between the two, that was my favorite. I would, of course, everybody's going to say, well, WrestleMania. Yeah, WrestleMania is always going to be number one because it's WrestleMania. But if you're looking outside of WrestleMania and pretty much the big four, Halloween Havoc was really, really cool. And I think they should bring that back and maybe change that from Hell in a Cell to Halloween Havoc. That'd be pretty cool. You can still have Hell in a Cell, Hell in a Cell matches, but just change it to Halloween Havoc. That'd be cool because, you're going into October with Hell in a Cell. What better way not to bring Halloween Havoc? What else they bringing back? I know they said Fall Brawl, I think, was another one. And World War 3 or 2 or 3, one of the two.
3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, bringing it back. So, I think it's good to bring all these back. It is really, really good, I think. But the edgier content, like I said, it's a good thing and a bad thing because we live in a society now that everybody gets offended very, very, very easily. I'd like to see it because I think wrestling needs to go back to that. We got New Japan, for instance, that is kind of TVMA, to be honest, and such a good promotion because they can really cut a promo and tell how it really is. And I think that's what WWE. Also, another thing with WWE is I think it's too produced. It's way, way, way too produced. That don't need to happen anymore. It needs to go back to the TV 14 where they can really spill their guts. Could you imagine TV 14 and Kevin Owens spitting dope promo, John Cena? I can't say Roman Reigns because he don't cut one. A good promo, that is.
Hey, he did say a word over on this past Monday though that it didn't get bleeped out. It just muted the TV for a second. So he can at least say a cuss word, but he maybe not be able to spit out a whole promo, but he can say a cuss word.
Yeah, that's what he's good for. But but you look at John Cena too. You imagine John Cena being on TV 14 and cutting a promo. That would be something that I would love to see. A John Cena TV 14 promo. That would be great because he does it now. And you can see that they're bringing the edgier content back. You can definitely see it, especially this past Tuesday with Jinder Mahal, which everybody's giving him crap for, but it's edgy TV. That's what you want. So I don't know. I feel like I'm spending way too long on it. I don't know. We got Walking Dead. We got so much stuff that these kids are introduced to, GTA and all this. There's video games, TV shows. Wrestling ain't going to hurt nothing. Wrestling is not going to hurt nothing from being a TV 14 show. Like I said, the only thing is if somebody cuts a promo like Jinder Mahal did and, it's racist.
But it's funny how it's going to get kind of political, and I don't mean to get to it, but it's funny how they all of a sudden get bent out of shape about that, but it's a Canadian Middle Eastern descent guy
Yes.
to a Asian American.
Yeah.
Or more of an Asian, because he's not really Asian American, but like, oh, we're gonna call that out, but we're not gonna say something like Cena to Roman Reigns, a white male American against a American Samoa.
Right.
Same thing with the Usos and New Day. I mean, not gonna care about that, but because it's for Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura, we're gonna do something about that. I don't get that.
It's politics in wrestling, man. That's what it is. It's
crazy.
There's politics in wrestling. There's politics in any sport that you look at it, and wrestling is one of the biggest politics in sports entertainment in general. But like I said, you brought up a good point. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, people just get too offended these days, and you can't take it like that, because kids, and every day on a daily basis, even as adults, we see it. We come across it no matter what. So I think bringing it back to edgy, I think, would help boost the ratings. I don't know if you guys seen this past week's SmackDown's photo of the camera side. Nobody on it. And that's where the ratings are going down. Nobody wants to come out and watch a grown man. Don't want to watch a TV, whatever it is right now, PG. Yes, PG right now. Not a grown adult don't want to watch a PG show. The only time it's not a PG show is after WrestleMania and SummerSlam. That's the only 2 times a year we get an edgier product. And you could tell it from this year. FU Roman Reigns, clearly on the TV, not edited out at all, which was great. But, and another thing, I want to go back to WWE. I don't like what WWE is doing to the Young Bucks and to the Bullet Club. I don't know if you guys have seen it. NXT is starting to blur out Bullet Club shirts.
I did not notice that.
Yes, they are starting to edit out and blur out Bullet Club, Young Bucks, anything to do with the Bullet Club. They're blurring their shirts out. And I think that's wrong, because that's another promotion. These guys that are WWE fans want to see, like, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, all these guys come to WWE, because one of these days Kenny Omega is going to come to WWE. Whether anybody likes it or not, he's going to. And that's when they need to change it to TV 14, because you got guys like the Briscoes down in ROH who would benefit from being in WWE as a TV 14. TV PG? No, they would not survive at all. TV 14? Oh, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. James, what's your thoughts on all this?
Going on the edgy content and all of that, I don't know. To me, it seems like wrestling is, in my opinion, when you put it PG, you place major restrictions on what people can say. And so it seems, I don't know, to me, WWE, I think the reason the ratings are so low is because WWE, for such a long time, the past century and a half, they've tried to focus around children, and the children they were focused in are still watching it, but now they're 20, 25 years old, and they're not kids anymore, and so they're losing interest. And today's generation isn't as big, the kids aren't as big into WWE. And so that's where I think they see the revenue costs going down and their ratings going down, because they haven't kept up with their core fan base, and they haven't realized, oh, wait, they're 25, 30 years old now. Maybe we can bring back some edgier content. Like when you go back to the 90s, early 2000s, I mean, kids were still watching, and they love, like, I mean, the big superstars, if you put them in today's era, Stone Cold wouldn't exist. The Rock probably wouldn't exist. You don't have these big superstars in a PG era back in that time. And I get it. Like, they wanted to build around kids. And so now, like, John Cena is like a big name. But, I mean, he's still selling merchandise because, I mean, it's John Cena. That's what he's there for. Like, But, like, I mean, people like Kevin Owens, The Miz, people who are really good on the mic, I think they would benefit really well if you change it to PG-4 or to TV-14. Because, I mean, could you imagine The Miz? Like, his promos are, like, almost 100% perfect now. Imagine what happens when you take the restrictions off and allow him to just kind of not really do a shoot promo. You can script it a bit, but, like, just let him speak his mind without restricting the words he can say. Like, I think Miz would be really over if you give him less restrictions. And then what Jacob said about, like, it's too scripted, like, you even look at, like, ROH or maybe somewhere like New Japan where the storylines are not as scripted. Maybe there's not even storylines at all. The content is so much better, like, in ring than, oh, we're going to throw, like, a stupid storyline together and it not really makes sense. So to me, it's just like you got to give your talent the ability to say what they want without restricting the words they can say. And then you got to let them be able to bring their own creativeness into their character. So if that means lowering back the storylines, then that's what you got to do. Storyline play its part in the ring. Not kind of like forcing a storyline down your throat. I mean, I don't know. Like this Dolph Ziggler thing, like Dolph Ziggler's making his storyline work right now. Like he's really good on the mic and he's really, I mean, it's the best I've seen out of Dolph Ziggler in a while. But just imagine if you could let him do what he can do in the ring as well. Like they're just kind of throwing him out there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like they're just throwing Dolph Ziggler out there. Like, but if you let him do what he does in the ring, because I mean, regardless if you like Dolph Ziggler or not, he is one of the better people in the ring than in the WWE. And that's where, like, I think he may be better off leaving the WWE and going somewhere else where he can use his creativeness to his benefit. Something like a Cody Rhodes or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at it this way. I mean, we kind of do shoot promos now as it is, but it's just restricted. Mm-hmm. Like, you can shoot on somebody like with Miz and what he did with Enzo, but it was a great promo. But, like, imagine if you put a TV-14 banner on it, it would have been 10 times better.
Oh, yeah.
And then kind of hitting on the nostalgic effect of these events coming back, it was funny because when I saw an article saying that WWE was potentially bringing back those things, I shared it on one of my group chats, and I said, they better not mess with Starrcade. And one day later, they said, hey, Starrcade's going to come back. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. I can deal with that. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. I think it'll be, as long as I love the nostalgic feel of it, is that, it's returning to the Greensboro Coliseum where it originated, Thanksgiving weekend, which is originated on, and bringing back some of the old guys to kind of feel that out. There is an event going on that weekend called WrestleCade that is in Winston-Salem, and it's supposed to be one of the last ones they're doing, if not the last one, and it's on that same weekend. So a lot of fans that are doing that are really upset that WWE is intruding on that weekend or something like that. And I can see it from their perspective, but at the same time, it's like, I get that you're upset about it and stuff like that. It's WWE. They're going to do whatever they want to do anyways. So, but it'll be cool. I think it'll be exciting to see. We're definitely going to go check that out. Starrcade up in the Greensboro Coliseum on November the 25th. It's going to be an exciting time. We'll try to do something maybe like a road trip type of thing what WWE does. Maybe like a day in the life of OSN and kind of show you what we're going to be doing up there. That'd be something we can think about for sure going on down the road. So, transforming from wrestling back to real sports. We'll get to college football and NFL picks. Yeah, I had to throw that out there because we're going to get fans are going to go, where's in the real sport? Whatever. Shut up. We'll start off for college football. Obviously, it's on Saturdays. I got 6 games that I think are going to be the best games of the weekend. And if you guys happen to think of any other games you think maybe an upset, maybe it doesn't have to be a ranked team versus a ranked team. It could be something else. Or if it is a ranked team that I haven't listed that you think could lose, definitely bring that to the table if you have an upset pick. So we'll start out with the number 23rd ranked team in the country, the Utah Utes, going on the road against the Arizona Wildcats. Utah's 3-0, Arizona's 2-1. I think Utah actually was only a 3-point favorite against Arizona, so it could be a close game there. Who do you think, guys? Who do you guys think could take home the win between Utah and Arizona?
I'm gonna go Utah. Yeah, the line is 3.5 points, but yeah, I mean Arizona's favorite to win this game actually, but yeah, I still go Utah going into Arizona and winning.
Oh, this is a tough one. It'll be a close game regardless. My gut feeling is Arizona, so I guess I'll go Arizona with this one.
We'll leave Jake on an island all by himself. I'm going to pick Arizona as well. I think Utah is going to get caught here. I think Arizona's going to try all sorts of stuff, just kind of surprise them and bring out the Wildcat in them and take down the Utes in Arizona.
That's tonight, by the way.
It is tonight. You're right.
Yeah,
that one is tonight.
Yep, it's tonight.
Friday night game. Kind of weird that there's college football on a Friday night. It's usually high school, but whatever. So definitely check out that game. 23rd ranked team, Utah against Arizona. Next on this list, I've got NC State going on the road in Doak Campbell Stadium against the 12th ranked team in the country who had a bye week last week, Florida State. Florida State without DeAndre Francois for the rest of the year. Sean McGuire, I believe, is going to be the quarterback now. He's shown flashes of good and bad in his starts with Florida State. NC State's a team on the rise that had, besides the loss to South Carolina in their opening week, have won 2 straight. So they're definitely looking pretty good right now. So let's see what the Wolfpack can do with a kind of depleted Florida State team. Who do you guys got for this one?
NC State. I think NC State can do it. I really do think they can do it. I think them missing AKA Cam Newton's lookalike or prototype or clone, whatever you want to call him. I just feel like that might hurt them a little bit, but I feel like I got NC State on this one. I feel like NC State could really do some damage on this game.
James Bealtey.
Yeah, I'm gonna go NC State as well. I mean, I watched them play South Carolina week 1. And, I mean, they looked really good. They had a couple series where South Carolina's defense held them. And if you remember in that game, they drove to the I think the 5-yard line before South Carolina's defense held them to no points at the end of the game there. Their offense is better than average, and if their defense can hold up to what might be Florida State's best asset, their offense is pretty good. Without Francois, though, I don't think it's as good. Sean McGuire's okay, but he's not an elite level talent. I just got to go NC State on this one. I think they have the better team on paper, in my opinion.
I'll go on my island. I'll say FSU. Their defense against Alabama was really good. Really good. I know I think they had a couple injuries on defense, but they still only held Alabama to, 24 points? 28, something like that. Still, that's really, really good to only give up in the 20s for Alabama. Their offense, I think, will be good enough to get them to 25, 28 points maybe. I just think that it'll come down to which defense can stop the other. And let's be honest, when's the last time you heard Florida State 0-2? When's the last time you heard that? That would send some shockwaves a little bit, Florida State being 0-2. I don't think it'll happen. I do think Florida State will get the win at home this week. Next matchup we got, it is a top 16 matchup in the Big 12, so a lot of points are going to be scored in this game. You've got TCU, Horned Frogs, 3-0, going up against the 6th-ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys in Oklahoma State. Both teams 3-0. A lot of points going to be scored in this game. It's a Big 12 shootout. This, to me, I think should be the game of the night. But, I mean, whatever. So, who do you guys have? TCU or Oklahoma State?
I'm a man. I'm 30, so I'm going with Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, okay.
But it's going to be It's going to be a shootout. It really, really is. Both quarterbacks are really good. Of course, I'm going to look up these stats real quick. Oklahoma State's quarterback, 11 TDs, 1 interception. He's already got 11.
Mason Rudolph, man.
He's already got 1,100 yards. So, I mean, I just don't know, man. Oklahoma State looks really, really good. Really, really, really good. They could be a playoff team for sure. For sure. They are a playoff team, in my opinion. I think they should take USC spot. My opinion.
Yeah, I'm going Oklahoma State as well. I mean, Mason Rudolph, second best quarterback in that conference behind the Baker Mayfield. And it's close. They're both really good. And I agree they could be a playoff team, but they would be. That Oklahoma State game later on this year is going to probably determine who makes the college football playoffs in that conference. I don't know what TCU to me. I mean, they're really good, but they're on the up incline. Oklahoma State is really consistent. I don't know if TCU is going to be able to provide enough offense to get it done, because Oklahoma State probably is going to get 50 points. So I don't know if you can put up that many points to challenge them.
Yep, this will be a clean sweep for us at Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph in that offense is lethal. And I think if they can just keep winning, Oklahoma keeps winning. November the 4th is the showdown in Oklahoma State between the Sooners and the Cowboys. It's a long time. It's another month, almost month and a half away. But if they can keep winning, that is going to be one of the best games of the year between those two teams. That, to me, is going to determine who's going to get in the playoffs in the Big 12, no matter what. Like I said, if Oklahoma State, their defense really doesn't have to play that good of football just because that offense is so lethal. So, as we know, the Big 12 doesn't have much defense. So, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma State here for sure. Next up on this list, the 5th-ranked team in the country, USC Trojans, going up against the California Golden Bears. Is that what they call them? Golden Bears?
Yep.
Both teams 3-0. California is at home. I think the point spread was 4.5 for USC, maybe a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure. I got to recheck that. But California, they're not looking that bad. This could be a trap game for USC. We'll see. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Let's see. USC is a 17-point favorite as of today.
See, it changes within the past 2 days.
Yeah.
I promise you it was a lot less than that.
So it is a 17-point. Yeah, this could very well be a trap game. Very, very well. But I'm going to go USC on this one. I don't know. Cal has looked really, really good. I mean, they really have. They've looked really good. But I'm going to go USC. Just with that hard-fought win against Texas last week really proved to me that they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Of any of the games in the next couple of weeks, this may be USC's toughest challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the biggest chance of them to lose, but I still think they have. They're going to win it. California is a team on the rise in the Pac-12, but Southern Cal is really good. And granted, they gave up a lot of points to Texas and arguably should have lost that game.
Yes.
Texas gave that game away. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Well, yes, they did.
So, I mean, and the fact that USC, I mean, stayed pretty much where they were in the top 25, even with the way they won that game, is kind of honestly surprising to me that they stayed fifth. This is going to be one of those games where I think they'll win by maybe 10, but if they don't come prepared and they did what they did against Texas and kind of let Texas have control for a while, California may sneak away with it. But I'm going USC on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you and Jake on that. I just think that USC is just going to pull this one away. I do go with USC, another clean sweep for us. With the polling, though, you got to understand it's the AP polling that they're going with right now, and they're inconsistent with everything in the world. I got to hold my breath on that because they did move to Clemson up to number 2, but still, the college football playoff polls are. I think that's when the eye test will be determined whether or not USC is a legitimate team, in a few weeks. But yep, going with USC, another clean sweep for us. We'll go to a top 20 matchup in the SEC. Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, going against another Bulldog, Georgia. In Georgia, I will go ahead and predict a Bulldog will win this game.
Man, Mississippi State looked good. I mean, they look so good. So good. Fitzgerald looked phenomenal in that game, looked really, really good in that game. If Georgia maybe still had Jacob Easton, I don't know though. They still have Chubb. I gotta go with Georgia, man. Georgia at home they're tough at home. Georgia is very, very tough at home. I can really say that. So I've got to go Georgia on that one.
So the Gamecock in me says go
Mississippi. I knew that was coming.
Mississippi State. But at the end of the day, Nick Chubb is going to change this game.
Mm-hmm.
If Nick Chubb was not playing, I'd pick Mississippi State all day. But Nick Chubb is a game changer. It doesn't matter who they're playing. So I gotta. It's hard. It's hard to do this, being a Gamecock fan. But I gotta go Georgia on this one. Mississippi State is a good team. But Nick Chubb, just solely by himself, changes that game because I don't think he will be stopped. I just don't.
I don't like this trend that we're doing of third straight game where we're all three going to be picking the same team. But, I just think that, like you said, that offense with Nick Chubb, that offensive line, it's working well. Nick Chubb is one of the best, if not the best running back in college football right now. It's hard to deny that. And to me, when they beat Notre Dame up in Notre Dame, that pretty much solidified that for me that Georgia's pretty real. So got to go with Georgia here too. Another clean sweep for us. Our last game that I got on here to pick, unless you guys have an upset pick, game of the night on ABC, I believe, at 8 o'clock. Number 4 team in the country, Penn State, on the road against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Both teams coming in 3-0. Iowa had a hard-fought victory last week against Iowa State in Iowa State. So they're coming off a pretty emotional big win there. Penn State coming in as the number 4 team in the country right now. It's going to be a tough game either way. This could be the trap game of all trap games for Penn State here. But who do you guys got?
I'm going to Iowa. It's tough to win. It's tough to win up there. It's been proven after many, many years when you go into Iowa and play them Hawkeyes, they're tough. They're tough at home. But I got to go with Iowa here. I really do think this is an upset that many people will probably pick. But I feel like this is one right here, man, that Iowa's tough. Like I said, Iowa's just tough at home.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa's tough.
Can't deny that Iowa's a tough team. And you look at last year's game, Penn State blew them out of the water. I don't think it's going to be like that. But Saquon Barkley, he is easily, at this point, the Heisman favorite. Whether or not he puts up the stats in this game to deserve being the Heisman runner, it kind of depends on what he can do here. Penn State. I got to go Penn State here. Outside of Barkley, their offense is kind of mediocre. So I'm not going to say that Iowa will not have a shot, but just based off what happened last year, simply alone, Penn State, I mean, they're going to probably hand the ball off 30 times to Barkley, and he'll bust a few. Penn State just, to me, one of the favorites in the Big Ten to win that division this year.
Yeah, I was watching quite a bit of the Iowa State game last week, and Iowa has a really good rushing defense, at least from what it looked like last week. Their passing defense was what kind of got them ate alive. So that's something I think Penn State kind of need to take into effect. Yeah, I mean, you got to set that run game early and often and see if it works. It probably will. But if not, don't be afraid to take some shots in that Iowa defense, though, because that pass defense was a little loose last week against Iowa State. Their offense is a pro-style offense, so it doesn't move down the field as quickly as most of these, no-huddle, speed, tempo offenses in college football. I do think it'll be a good game. I don't think it'll be a blowout like last year. My mind says Penn State. My heart, my gut says Iowa. So I'm going to go with Iowa here. I'm going to go with the upset. I'll go with Iowa. Gotta love upsets, so that's what I'm going to go with. Do you guys have any upset picks for this week, though, besides some of the games that we mentioned?
Well, I'm not picking it, but I'm putting Florida on upset alert.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick him, not jinxing him. I'm not jinxing. I just want to break it down real quick. Florida has not impressed me. I don't feel like they got the offense. I feel like Tennessee, the way Tennessee came back in that game last week against Florida, really showed how, I guess you want to say, they're very vulnerable. I can't say it right now, but they're very, very. I just don't feel like the secondary is that good in Florida. I know they got 9, maybe 10 players suspended. I think that's right. I think their best. I know their best player is suspended, and usually when they want to come into Lexington or we go down there and play them in the swamp, and they can have 20 players suspended and be like, "Oh, we're playing Kentucky," so they're all reinstated. This year, not so fast, my friend. You're not reinstated. So, we got to put Florida on there, even though it's kind of like, oh, well, you're really picking Kentucky. But just Kentucky's rush defense last week against South Carolina, the way they played South Carolina last week inside of I want to say a top 3 stadium in the SEC where you really cannot hear anything. Yeah, Kody looks at me like, really? I mean, it is a tip. It is. It's a top 3 or 4 stadium in the SEC. It really is. What are you going to put in? Who are you going to put in your top 3 or 4? I mean, people's going to say Neyland Stadium. Okay, that's Tennessee. I know they hold 160,000 people. Then you got the Swamp.
Yeah, there's 2.
Okay, and then what? You going to put Alabama?
Hey, listen, you put a top 20 team in Bryant-Denny. They don't come out alive. Their fans are pretty good now. Their fans are pretty good. I don't like them, but hey, listen, you got to put Kyle Field there too. 117,000 people over there in Kyle Field with Texas A&M. They get buzzing, they get going too. So,
well, I mean, they're not been buzzing because
no, they haven't.
They've not been, but in all seriousness, though, South Carolina really does. I'll probably say top 3, but they do have like a top 5 stadium that is really, really hard to go in and play. Because when you're facing your back, when Kentucky was facing, we're not really facing their backs, we're behind South Carolina student section. Just listening to it, and I like what the SEC Network did. It's like you're going to listen to what Kentucky's hearing. I was like, that place is rocking, and I know, playing South Carolina in the years that when we had Randall Cobb. That place come electric, man. That place is electric for 88,000 people. That place gets loud. That place really does get loud.
They added more stuff to it this year. They added a live DJ. They added stuff to make it louder. I'm not going to say that's a top 3 because I would say
you put a DJ in there because your fans weren't allowed enough the past 4 seasons.
Wait a minute. Wait, before you go on. Louisville did the same thing, though.
Like what we did to them.
Well, exactly. But people want to be like, Louisville's a tough place to play. Kentucky showed that last year. It ain't tough to go into Papa John Stadium. Luckily, you didn't play in the KFC Yum Bucket, which that is the basketball, arena. That's what us Kentucky fans call that little brother. Louisville to us is little brother. But yeah, Papa John Stadium did the same thing. They added a DJ as well because the crowd, the students weren't getting into it.
They had to get a little bit louder. I mean, everybody kept being Papa John's pizza. So I mean, when you be stuff in your face, you ain't cheering. So
yeah, no, Lamar Jackson didn't have a good night that night.
Oh no, no sir.
Well, go ahead, James.
No, sir. James, do you have any upset picks for this week?
I wouldn't say it's an upset, but I think a game to watch. Also playing tonight, 8:00 Eastern on ESPN2. It's a team that I've come pretty fond of watching. Boise State. They played Virginia tonight. Boise State's 2-1. The only loss coming in triple overtime against Washington State week 2, where their starting quarterback Brett Rippon got knocked out, and then their freshman made his first career start last week, and they put up 28-14 win over New Mexico. Rippon is cleared to play tonight. Don't know if he's going to start. They haven't made that decision yet. But Virginia's a team that I don't know how good Virginia's going to be. Kind of bottom of that ACC in football. But I think it's going to be a pretty good game. Boise State's actually a pretty decent team in the Mountain West.
Is that game in Virginia or in Boise State?
It is in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah, Boise State's going to take that all day. Virginia don't have to play on that blue field.
I mean, you really want to go upset? I'll pick you an upset real quick. I put one team on upset alert, but I'll pick one. I'll pick Air Force over San Diego State.
Why'd you have to take mine? Why'd you take mine? That's exactly
Sorry, man.
what I was going to go for. I was going to go Air Force is going to be beating San Diego State.
Hey, at least we're on the right page, though. Same page. Yeah. Great minds think alike.
So, James, do you think Virginia will beat Boise State? Is that your upset, or?
No, I think Boise State will pull that one out. My upset, I don't know. What would my upset be? Let me 1 second. Let me take a look.
I'll give you one more: Syracuse or LSU. Syracuse over LSU.
I was thinking about that. I really was thinking about that. I was like, all right, it's either gonna be Air Force and over SDSU or Syracuse over LSU. But
yeah. That could be another. I'm just saying that could be another one that could be a really upset victory.
If it was in Syracuse, like it was last year, I would have picked Syracuse. But because it's in LSU,
it's kind of hard. But with LSU getting thumped like they did last week,
yeah, you ain't kidding. It's hard not to choose it. I'll tell you that much.
It's hard. It's hard not to because they're both 2-1 and LSU's ranked 25th. So.
On ESPN, it says LSU's a 21-point favorite. I don't think it'll be that close. I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it'll be at least a 10, 12-point game.
You said ESPN had it at what?
On my app, it says that LSU's got an 88% chance to win.
Yeah, they're a 21-point favorite. But still.
I don't think it'll be that far.
I don't either.
My upset. Y'all might. So the line of this one, Michigan versus Purdue. I'm gonna pick Purdue.
Ooh, okay, that's nice. That's a nice one. I've heard that one this week.
The line is Michigan so far right now. Michigan is 10.5-point favorite.
Okay.
I think Purdue. They're 2-1. Michigan, honestly, against a very very weak Florida team, didn't really impress me.
Purdue hung around all game long against Louisville 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
Is that kind of far-fetched of a pick? I would say that.
No, that was Indiana that almost beat Ohio State. But, Purdue Whew. I mean, they got a decent team. They are. Michigan is, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, Michigan's a 78% chance of winning, which for a top 10 team to only have basically 80% chance of winning, that's kind of low. But I mean, you look at Michigan's quarterback has only 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, where Purdue's quarterback has 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. Purdue is averaging more yards per game. Yes, their defense is weaker, but I mean, they blew Missouri last week.
Never know,
So I mean, they're pretty good. And then you look at Michigan last week; they only beat Air Force by like 13. So
yeah, it was a close game until the fourth quarter, and then Michigan finally started pulling away. So Michigan's been playing some pretty close football recently. For sure. Well, we'll go over to the Sunday scores. We'll go over to the NFL. I've got 7 games that I've got us picking, and if you guys happen to have an upset pick or team that you think will, win over a team that they probably would lose to, bring that up here. We'll start out with a 1 o'clock start over in good old Bank of America Stadium. You got the New Orleans Saints at 0-2 against the 2-0 Panthers. Got to go with James first. And tell me who you think will win this.
Oh, man. Panthers, easy. Saints are awful. They're a team that are going to be bottom of that division. And Bank of America Stadium, oh my goodness, that crowd can get pretty loud as well. We're talking about loud crowds. Panthers, I mean, they just seem to have, I don't know, they just seem to have that it thing right now. I mean, you lose your best tight end and you still get like a really good tight end to replace them. So they're really not losing much with Olsen being out. So, I mean, I got to go Panthers on that one.
Gotcha. I'll go first, and I'll let the Panther man have his moment of glory. Listen, Drew Brees. Come on now. Drew Brees is going to be throwing all over that defense, dude. Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram. Come on now. What do you got going here? I got Panthers by 1.
Like James said, you got – I'm going, of course, going Panthers. But losing Greg Olsen was a big hit. But you got another veteran in Ed Dixon who played in that Baltimore Ravens offense with Joe Flacco. One of Joe Flacco's favorite targets other than Dennis Pitta. Of course, y'all remember Dennis Pitta. But Ed Dixon was along with that tight end when they ran that 2 tight end set. He loved to throw the ball to him. But, yeah, I think, the defense has not allowed a touchdown yet.
It sounds like Clemson's defense.
Touchdown last week. They have not allowed a touchdown yet. They will allow one this week, but the defense is nasty. That Carolina defense is ridiculous. Like, it's so nasty. Cam Newton's just got to get better offensively. Got to shake the rust off. I like what he's doing, how he's being in the post-game press conferences now. He's mad at himself. He was praising the team, but not happy with himself. But I told everybody, it's going to take another 2-3 weeks. Another 2 weeks before he gets back on track. But we'll see how he plays Sunday. But Panthers, of course.
Clean sweep for us, so we'll all have Panthers there. Go up to Detroit, where we got a team. Let me see here. Got 2 teams that are 2-0 coming in. You got the Falcons and the Lions. I think this could possibly be a game of the week. As of right now on ESPN, Falcons are a 3-point favorite. Close game for sure. We'll start out with Jake. We got on the division foe against the NFC North division foe.
I don't like the Falcons. That's a big rivalry right there. It's hard to go against the Lions inside Ford Field. It's hard, and I don't care if the Falcons were to have a 7 to 10 point lead. Matthew Stafford is the king of fourth quarter comebacks, but I see the Lions taking this one.
James. Do not give you enough time.
No. I'm still thinking. This is a tough one. Running wise, if this is a running game, Devonta Freeman is the better running back, but quarterback wise, Matthew Stafford I think is better than Matt Ryan. And that might be SEC bias over the ACC kind of thing, but I don't know. I'm picking Detroit to win this one.
I'm going on an island. I'll pick the Falcons. I'll be the one that does it. If the Falcons play like they did against the Bears in Week 1, the Lions are going to run all over them.
Oh, that's the Bears. The Bears suck.
I realize that. That's what I'm saying. If the Falcons have that road team against the Bears where they barely won and really just didn't show up, then Detroit's going to make this game very, 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 very bad for the Falcons very quickly. But if the Falcons play like they did against the Packers last week offensively, there's no stopping this team. And that's what I kind of had a season preview. I said the Falcons were going to be division winners again. So far, they've proven pretty good, pretty decent. I just think that offense is still really good. And it just depends on if they can. I don't think they'll put up 40 points again like they did with the Packers. I do think this could be an offensive showdown. This just depends on maybe who has the ball the last. But I will go Falcons here. A very close game. I think it'll probably be game of the week, maybe game of the day for sure. Next game we got here for us. I only wish Randall was here to pick this one because I think I know who he would pick, but I just want to see his reaction. Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans going on the road in New England against the Patriots. Both teams are 1-1. Start out with James. What do you got going here?
That Texans team is pretty good. I mean, their defense is, of course, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I'm going upset here. Give me Houston.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, give me
Wow.
Houston.
Wow.
Reason: Tom Brady can make any receiver. He don't have any receivers to make though. Yes, Gronkowski may come back. Chris Hogan is not a number one receiver, and that defense I feel like will shut Brady down. The running game is not as good as it was a couple years ago. Houston, I don't know. There's something magical now. Ever since they put Deshaun in, I hate to say this as a Gamecock fan, but I mean he's working it. He's working that offense really well, making some really good plays on his feet. Give me Houston on this one.
Jake.
Gotta go Patriots. They will not lose two back-to-back home games like that. There's just no way. Tom Brady's not going to allow it. I mean, if he has to go out there and inflate some more footballs, then it is what it is. But nah, like I said, it's hard to pick against the Patriots, especially at home like that. But it's going to be a tough game for sure. I think Deshaun is going to shock a lot of people and keep the Houston Texans in that game, if not win that game. And like I said, the Texans have a good shot. They have a good defense, good offense. We'll see. I mean, we will see. I mean, that's how you play on Sundays. I mean, I could be wrong, and the Texans and James could be right. So I'm going to go Patriots. So
as much as I want to pick the Texans, I just watching that game this past a week ago with Deshaun and the first team. Of course, he didn't have very many reps with the first team offense, so it was a little shaky. There was a lot of I wouldn't say miscommunication, but you could tell that he didn't have a lot of reps. Of course, he made great plays with his legs, and that's what Deshaun is good at, is extending plays, making plays besides just throwing the ball. He and DeAndre Hopkins, though, hooked up a lot, and that could be a lethal duo, because, Clemson boys. If they keep on doing that, those two getting on the same page and making some plays, that could be pretty lethal too. Both teams have a lot of injuries. both on offense, mostly on offense for both teams. I think it may be a struggle for both teams offensively. That's really not a good thing to say regarding Tom Brady. It's a struggle on offense. But I mean, we saw with what happened with the Chiefs that, man, they just, once they get a good defense coming in like the Texans have been, they expose those receivers and that offense pretty good. So I mean, the Texans can do that too. I think it'd actually be a 20-17 game, maybe a 20-13, maybe a 27-20. I don't think it'll be a very, very, very high scoring game here, but I do have the Patriots winning at home, avoiding that 2-game losing streak at home like they have in the regular season. Next game right on the list here, it's going to be an NFC East division showdown between the Giants and the Eagles. Eagles coming in 1-1, Giants 0-2. 0-2. As a Redskins fan, that is so great to see. What in the world is going to happen in Philadelphia Sunday?
Philly's going to win. The Giants have no offensive line. Have none. They don't have an offensive line to save Eli Manning or anybody that's sitting in that backfield. Yeah, gotta go Eagles. They just if the Giants had an offensive line, I would pick the Giants, but they just been getting murdered the past 2 weeks. Murdered.
Absolutely. And Philly's a 6-point favorite, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't like either team. I think that's fair to say. Carson Wentz has looked actually better than I thought he would this year. Of course, he's the leading passer. He's also Philadelphia's leading rusher. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how bad their Eagles running game is.
Oh, God. Oh, that's horrible.
He only has 61 yards this year, and he's the leading rusher. So,
boy.
But as Jake said, the Giants, they spent so much money getting these wide receivers, Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham. They didn't work on their offensive line. And you can't throw the ball to these guys if you can't have a quarterback able to stay in the pocket long enough to give it to them. Eagles, they're going to take it. I think the 6-point favorites is a little undervalued. I think they're like 20-point favorites over the Giants because the Giants are awful. They're just awful.
They're a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah,
it's a huge dumpster fire right now.
No kidding. Like James, being a Redskins fan, I don't like either team. Honestly, I would rather have the Giants win just so they can at least have a win. And if we lose, we'd all be still tied for the division lead. But realistically, I'll be surprised if New York gets 15 points on the board, maybe 20. But the Eagles are going to throw it all over the place on them. Maybe run all over the place. Maybe that running game will finally get going. But clean sweep for us. We will go Eagles over the Giants. A 4 o'clock game that I think could be a really good game, but I think could be a determining factor of how good both these teams are or how not so good one of these teams could be. Seahawks at the Titans. Obviously, the Titans being 1-1, Seahawks also 1-1. ESPN has Tennessee as a 2.5-point favorite. Shows how close this game probably will be. What you guys thinking about this?
Give me Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Mariota, only 1 touchdown so far this year. But Seattle, I don't know what to expect from them as well. My line of thinking would be Tennessee. Just simply, they're the home team, so they're going to have a little bit of an advantage. Seattle's defense isn't as good as it's been in the years past. It's still really good, but I think Mariota, despite not getting a lot of touchdowns, he's completing almost 70% of his passes. So, he's accurate. He's doing really well. His favorite target, of course, is Delaney Walker. You get, I mean, it's only going to take a second, and then Mariota he's gonna light it up. This might be that game that he starts warming up a little bit on the stat sheet. I think Tennessee has it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. Tennessee at home, Seattle hasn't impressed me, not at all. I feel like Russell Wilson's not giving the ball to Jimmy Graham, which I think Jimmy Graham could easily be he's easy a top 5. Used to be a top 5 tight end when he was with Drew Brees. Still in the top 10 though, top 10 tight ends, but he's just not passing him the ball. You look at, it's just crazy to even think that. But like I said, I got to go Tennessee. The Seahawks, like I said, have not impressed me. They barely won against the 49ers. Of course, they lost to Green Bay, but they barely won at home against the Niners. Like, that should be – even watching the game last night with the Niners and, watching us play the Niners, it was like, okay, well, they're getting ready to play the Seahawks, and they're going into Seattle, and that's a hard place, the hardest place to play other than Kansas City in the NFL, and they only win by 3. And that game was just crazy. So I think Tennessee can take it. The running game with Murray and Derrick Henry is outstanding. So I'll go Tennessee here.
Well, I think that Seattle is still a good team. Obviously, defensively, they're still really good. That offense just has not been clicking really at all.
Mm-mm.
So I think Tennessee will put enough points on the board and can defeat Seattle. I don't think the time will have any difference really on the Seahawks. It's a 4:00 game, so if anything, they're getting probably a couple more hours rest to get used to that. So, but I do think Titans will go with that. That is another clean sweep for us on that. That's 3 of the 5 we picked so far. Next game up, it's a Sunday night spectacular. Same time as No Mercy, which sucks. Raiders at the Redskins. We'll let Jay go first.
So you got the Raiders against the Redskins. A Super Bowl rematch. The Raiders are a 3-point favorite. I don't know. I'm going to go Washington.
What?
Wow.
I'm gonna go Washington on this. I know people are like, "What the hell? You're going with the?" Yeah, but man, that's my upset right there. Washington over Oakland, man. it's an 8:30 game. We know who Josh Norman is going to be guarding. That will be Mr. Amari Cooper. So the only thing that's really, kind of, I want to say Oakland. I really do want to say Oakland, but I don't know. I just feel like the matchup, I know with Amari Cooper and Norman, but you're leaving Crabtree open now. I just see a way that Washington Redskins defense is going to just handle everything that they can. I'm going to go Washington, man. I really am.
I think you shocked James so much because he left the feed again. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's back. James, you go ahead and you go before me.
It's funny that this game is Sunday night, same time as No Mercy. That's
not the first time it's happened. Last year, I don't remember when it was. It might have been during Survivor Series. I don't remember. But there was a Sunday night game where the Redskins were playing. It was the Packers. Didn't really watch the game, and we obliterated the Packers. So that's an omen.
It's not going to – no, I was trying to say here, it's funny that this pay-per-view this week is No Mercy, and it's the same time as this game because that's exactly what the Raiders are going to show the Redskins. No mercy. Are you serious? This defense, skeptical on it. We pulled it out against the Rams, and, yeah, the Rams won last night, but, they're still not I think the Raiders are 3 times as better as the Rams, maybe even more than that. As a Redskins fan, I mean, it hurts to say, but offensively, we're not doing as well as we want. Terrell Pryor hasn't come into his game yet. Our running game, outside of Chris Thompson, this running game, I mean, hasn't been impressive like it hasn't been the past couple of years. And defensively, the linebackers are not as good as they should be. We know Norman will be on Cooper, but I think what we really need to focus on is that Michael Crabtree matchup, because Michael Crabtree is arguably better or as good as Amari Cooper. And who would be on him? Breeland?
Probably Breeland.
Yeah, and Breeland, I'm not sold on him. I've never been sold on him. Yeah, Oakland. I think they're going to win by at least 3 touchdowns.
Jesus, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like this is going to be Terrell Pryor's breakout game.
It might be. I don't know. But
this is his former team, you know.
It is. I don't know. It's just something about FedEx Field, Sunday or Monday Night Football. The Redskins do not show up. You know this, Kody. We went
Sunday night. It's a little bit different. Sunday night we've been decent. It's Monday night that we can never ever win.
I mean, remember that Panthers game? Yeah, that was a Monday night game. They never showed up. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't do anything. So I just don't trust the Redskins enough to pick them against Oakland. I think Oakland is so dominant.
Thank you for bringing up my 21st birthday again, James.
Wow.
Trying to get over that.
Wow.
Trying to get over that.
He's like,
I'm going
21st birthday.
I'm going. It sucks because we went to the game, the Panthers-Redskins game, and they played on Monday, December 19th.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a good game, so. And then all of us. I was in North Carolina, actually. I was in Mount Airy, and well, I was like, this is going to be a good game. Josh Norman, knows the offense, and then, no, never mind. Cam Newton's just going to throw him the ball each time. Yeah, so it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I got the Raiders winning. Our running game is decent. It wasn't like 2016 or 2015 where we literally had no running game. It's okay. I think we need to give P. Ryan a little bit more reps. Chris Thompson is Chris Thompson. The receivers haven't really they've shown flashes. When Kirk had a 3rd and 20 or something like that last week and he threw a 18-yard bomb to Crowder. And then when he came up somehow big at the end of the game last week and threw that touchdown pass to Ryan Grant, there's flashes. But you need more than flashes against this Oakland Raiders team. We let up 30 against Philadelphia. We let up 20 last week. We can let up 10. Yeah, no, not even close. Not even close. Derek Carr is, and I've been a Derek Carr fan ever since he got drafted to the Raiders. I think he is going to be a superstar in this league. He may win MVP this year if he continues proving doubters wrong and just playing his game. I do see Oakland winning this. I think it'll be a high-scoring affair for Oakland, and I think we will try to catch up, but we will not. We're not going to close. So
just before we move on here, I mean, I'm gonna be the ranting Redskins fan here. I think it's time to give Ryan Grant his fair opportunity because he's worked so hard the past 3 or 4 years, and he's been our 4th receiver every season. And it should be his time. I mean, we have Pryor, we have Jamison Crowder. I mean, but we drafted Josh Doxson, and what's he played? I mean, he hasn't done anything this year. Granted, he was injured basically all of last year. I'm just like Breeland. I'm not sold on Doxson. I think that was honestly a dumb pick
It wasn't a dumb pick necessarily because he was so good in college. So I can understand us getting that receiver. But, of course, once you get to the pro level, you need to prove something. And, of course, yes, he hasn't. So it's a bust. I would say it's a bust. It wouldn't be like it was a dumb pick because he was a really good player in college and he proved that. But for whatever reason, in the NFL, it's just been injury. I was sold on Breeland for 1 year, and that was after the Monday night game where he covered Des Bryant against Dallas in Dallas and had a phenomenal game. But ever since then, he's had blown coverages, just hasn't been reading them right. And I'm hoping that, you can only hope that with being under the wing of Norman that he would know how to cover people at least.
It hasn't happened.
And let's not even get started about Sua Cravens. But
and even DJ Swearinger hasn't done what we were expecting. That defensive unit as a whole is kind of
besides the pass rush, there really isn't much.
Right.
Because the pass rush, at least last week, was there.
We've always had, Preston Smith, Ryan Kerrigan. We've built a really good linebacker front seven. It's just that back end. You can't rush 7 every game, or every play. So
you can try, but it won't work very well.
You're going to have to get a defensive back core to sustain the throw. And Derek Carr, he's probably one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. So if the defensive unit isn't going to be able to defend these receivers, they show what they have so far this year. I think Oakland, if they execute their plan, Oakland will run away with this game, I think.
Could be. Final pick I got for us is the Monday night game. The Dallas Cowboys going into Arizona, facing off against the Cardinals. Both teams 1-1 on Monday Night Football. Dallas is a 3-point favorite. Who we got?
Give me Carson Palmer's Cardinals. I'm not sold on Dallas. I was at the beginning of the year. I think I had them 13-3 preseason. But come on, Ezekiel Elliott runs for 8 yards last week, and he has the best offensive line in the league. Disappointed, and that might have just been a bad game. Dak Prescott hasn't done as well as he did last year. Obviously he had a fantastic year last year, kind of coming out of nowhere. And I don't know. I just feel like Arizona is one of those teams that are kind of in the middle. They're not really great, but they're not bad. And I think given this game, I think they'll be the better team Monday night. I think overall Dallas is the better team, but I think Monday night Arizona will outperform. That's why I'm going Arizona.
Neither team has impressed me the past 2 weeks. Oh man, gotta go Cowboys.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. I just think that Dallas will outlast the Cardinals. I'm not really sold on their offense, really, Arizona's. And I know that Dallas is going to explode at any minute as long as they just perform and execute. That could definitely be the case for Dallas this Monday if they can just outperform Arizona. So I'm going to go with Cowboys as well.
I would have picked Arizona if they still had David Johnson.
Mm-hmm. True.
I would have picked them, but like I said, I'm just not sold on them. I'm just not. And same with the Cowboys. I'm not sold on them as of yet, but they got offensive weapons and Dez and Jason Witten and Zeke. And they do got the best offensive line, and it's hard to go against them. So I guess that's why I went with the Cowboys.
Sure. Anybody have any upset picks? I know some of these maybe have been upset picks, like Texans over Patriots or maybe Redskins over Raiders. I'm not sure. But anybody have any other upset picks they could think of before we get off here.
The Cleveland Browns get their first win this weekend against the Colts.
Okay.
Very upset. Get ready. Sunday morning, 9:30 Eastern time, live from Wembley Stadium.
Going Jacksonville?
The Jaguars will beat Baltimore.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one. That's a good one.
Wow, that's a good one. That is.
That's a good one right there. That's really good.
Oh, boy. I didn't really think about that until you said something about it. You know what? I'm going to have to go out a limb, and we're going with upsets, and I'm going to go do it. Bills over Broncos.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Bills over Broncos. Broncos are only a 3-point favorite, and it's a 1:00 game on the East Coast, so that's a 2-hour, almost 3-hour difference for Broncos. And I know that defense is good. I know they're good, but at that time zone, man, that could affect people. And going from a mile-high city to a little bit less than that is could be a factor too. So I'm going to go Bills over Broncos.
And that's not a bad pick. I mean, the Bills played really good last week, I thought, against us. I mean, yeah, we didn't allow them a touchdown, but they still played very, very good last week, and the Bills did. I just feel like Tyrod Taylor and our defense last week just got to him too much, and, we just covered under defenders and stopping that running game. But Shady McCoy's the real deal. I mean, that was the problem with him last week. I was sitting here watching the game, and I was like, man, like McCoy ain't got no running space at all against this defense. But it being in Buffalo, them crazy Buffalo fans, man, they're crazy, want to do some WWE moves. But yeah, man, that's a good pick. I mean, I was about to pick the Bills over that, but I just got to go with the Browns, man. The Browns going to get the first win over the Colts. The Colts are horrible. They're so bad.
I hear you.
I don't know what team is worse off, the Colts or the Giants. I mean, they're both kind of.
Well, here, I'll put it to you this way, and the best way I can describe it, and it's kind of like what Chris Carter said yesterday. You got a guy in Cam Newton that had the same surgery as Andrew Luck 2 months before Cam Newton had it. Still not playing.
Right.
Cam Newton's out there playing. So do I think Andrew Luck is healthy? I do not think he's healthy. I think he will not be back until about week 8. I mean, the prediction was week 6 to week 8, somewhere in that range, and I think he won't be back until about week 8, maybe week 9. I just feel like, I don't know, the Colts have the weapons, but they just don't have the quarterback.
True.
If you were the Colts, and your team is, let's say you get to week 8 and he's ready to come back, but you're like 1-7, 2-6.
Don't bring him back.
There, or would you just no? I wouldn't either. I would let him sit out this year. I mean, no chance in risking re-injuring your talented quarterback. Just go out there, not necessarily tank because you're 2-6. So obviously the team's not good enough anyway to win. But I just wouldn't risk your star player for basically nothing.
Yeah, especially if you're already eliminated from playoff contention. There's no reason to bring Andrew Luck. I mean, if they do, they do. But I think everybody in that organization, coaching-wise, is out of Indianapolis because of the way they are starting out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, Andrew Luck, I feel like he's just not had the proper training and treatment that he should have had on his shoulder. But, and it's hard. It's hard to come back. It's like I said, I look at Cam Newton and him coming off that injury, the same injury, and you see him overthrowing people. Like Ed Dixon, overthrew him twice, 2 weeks in a row. Had him wide open in San Francisco and had him wide open last week. But, the difference is, Cam is a freak of nature.
Right.
He's like, the way me and my buddy put it is Cam Newton is like John Cena. Freak of nature. Dude can be out. When we all know John Cena should be out like 8 months, comes back in 5 months, 6 months. That's what Cam Newton's done. Cam Newton came back within 6 months, 5, 6 months, and is playing again. Look at that. See, John Cena. Which we're going back on that topic real quick on wrestling. I was not a huge John Cena fan, but now I'm a huge John Cena fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
You get Kody yelling at you again.
I mean, listen, Kody. Listen.
I'll let it slide.
No. Listen. Who would you pick in this rivalry with Roman Reigns and John Cena? Now, I'm going to pick John Cena. I can't pull for Roman Reigns. I don't care what anybody says. Roman Reigns is not – no, I can't do that. It's couldn't. That's like me picking the Falcons. I cannot do that.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could pick Roman Reigns. I think Cena will win Sunday.
Yeah,
I do think that'll happen.
Oh yeah.
Just real quick back on football. Not going to put an upset alert, but I mean, I think a good game that might be closer than people think. Chiefs and Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean,
very well.
Melvin Gordon's nagging injury. He's expected. I believe he is expected to play. But oh my goodness, Alex Smith coming out of nowhere and just tossing touchdowns. I mean, I honestly like Alex Smith ever since he was drafted to San Francisco. I didn't think he was the problem in San Francisco.
No,
I think he was. I think they didn't build around him, and as you can see, in Kansas City, they have properly built a team around him, and he's showing that he's actually a pretty good. He's kind of like that Aaron Rodgers kind of quarterback, where like he had to sit for a while, and now it's his time to shine. And I think he's doing that.
No kidding. So, but we'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens for sure. Whether it happens Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday night.
Alex Smith is out there throwing the football, slinging the football around like Urban Meyer is still like he's still at Utah with Urban Meyer. I mean, he is slinging the football around. Travis Kelce, by far, probably the best tight end in the NFL right now.
He won Kody that fantasy championship last year, and
yeah, so, Travis Kelce.
Buddy.
Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game right now.
Right. I mean,
yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that one.
People are going to say Gronk, but I mean, Gronk's never healthy enough. Travis Kelce, I don't think's missed more than 2 games a season.
Right.
Gronk misses half a year.
6 games in and he's out.
Mm-hmm.
True.
6 games and he's out.
True.
I mean, we'll see how he does this year. I mean, with Gronkowski, but like with a tight end position, that's like with Greg Olsen. I put Greg Olsen in that top 5. Greg Olsen by far is a top 5 tight end in this league, and we got him for nothing from the Chicago Bears. Nothing. It was like we just went out there and stole him away and was like, here you go, here's your 2nd-round pick. Really? Like a 2nd-round pick? That's all you wanted for? And you look at Greg Olsen, he's the only tight end in NFL history to have 3 straight years of 1,000 yards. Now he's not going to get the 4th one because, he's hurt, obviously, but still one of the best tight ends. I put him right up there. Jason Witten as well. Jason Witten, I think, is a top 5 tight end.
Right.
Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker is probably the most underrated tight end in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you have an up-and-coming tight end. Look at Hunter Henry. It's
yes.
hard. Hunter Henry,
you can't deny about, with Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is of course, he's declined over the years, but still, he is the best tight end now.
Nothing beats having an experienced tight end. Even for the Redskins, Vernon Davis. He might not put up the numbers, but he'll come in there when he needs to come in and perform.
So, but on that, guys, anything else to add?
Okay.
Hold on.
Everybody was froze
for a second.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I'm good though. Anybody else? Like I said, got anything else before we head off?
No.
No, we're good.
All right. Well, guys, I do appreciate you guys coming on today. You can follow us on Facebook at Outlaws Sports Network, Twitter at Outlaw Sports Net, YouTube Outlaws Sports Network as well. Give us a like, subscribe us on YouTube, share this video, give us some comments, feedback, what you guys want us to talk about next time on Unhinged. Anything else we could possibly debate? Anything you guys have any, like I said, comments, feedback, definitely give us a chance to explore those options for sure. But until possibly next week, we will see you guys later here on the Outlaw Sports Network channel. We'll see you guys later.